Right, so this is just a short interlude video, as the title suggests, looking at what's currently on the workbench. I've been working at trying to get the shed, as I call it, in some sort of order, so that I can record and, well, finish recording some of these videos. But in the meantime, I thought I'd show you kind of a small project that I'm working on, which is this guy. A little ageing adventurer. I recently worked with a museum service on pulling together a comic book about the island of Ravensroad, which existed between about 1230 and disappeared after about 100 years. As part of that, a couple of the kids in the comic built this model of an island, and so I thought, to give me some reference, I'd do the same, and kind of built it out with the materials that you'd probably find around a house, bits of old game pieces and cardboard, etc. And after the comic book was made, the model became a little bit redundant, so I started to work on an idea for a tabletop role-playing game to play with some friends, because it's got sort of local significance. Kind of invented my own rules, and that became this Companions of War. So I thought I might need some figures for that, and so I picked up some bits and pieces from online, and as you can see here, these were the first kind of few that I got with these medieval looking characters here. And because the characters that the players will be playing are sort of adventurers but also agents of an organisation, I first went with these quite cloak and dagger looking types, which I really like, but it ultimately didn't quite give the feel of what I was looking for. Not to say I won't be using them as part of the game. Obviously they could be great as attackers and stuff like that. And then I picked up these metal figures, which I don't really do a lot with metal figures, but I really loved them because obviously they're film connection. But I wasn't sure about the height on some of them. And so with one of them I thought I'd do a little test of building him up to close to the height of the other figures that I'd be using. I've done a bit more work on him since, which I'll show in a later video. But I went back to this image that I'd made of the chap on the horseback, and I thought, right, okay, if I'm going to have like a few characters, I might as well have a bit of a play with that. So I picked up these medieval figures, but they were in full armour, perhaps a little bit late for the mid-14th century thing that I was going for. But still, there was parts of those that I thought I could use, and obviously the horses were perfect for what I needed. And I thought I might be able to use their feet with the stirrups, but they also gave me a good guide as to if I was going to cut these other figures around that I'd picked up in more kind of regular dress, how I'd go about doing that. So as you can see here, so I took one of these other figures and started to cut it so it would fit on the horse, and obviously I'd cut it off the knees because I was going to put those original feet in stirrups back on as well. Not sure how the feet would look with that, but I'm going to gloss over that. So I started to do it, and obviously you can see that it was beginning to be a lot of work, and I was wondering what tools to use. I ended up using this old lino cutting tool, which is a dangerous old piece of kit and can take proper lumps out of you if you're not careful, so just be careful if you're going to use one of these to do it. I use this quite a bit actually in toy conversions. It's great at getting through large pieces but also leaving that nice curve that I'm looking for in the saddle area, shall we call it. And you can see there it's pushed through and taken that. I also snipped a few pieces off using my snippers. As you can see there, lots and lots of sort of like bits coming away from that. And then it's getting closer. Pulled a bit of sandpaper over a screwdriver to give me a kind of curved sanding tool and smooth that out a bit there. And there we have him. He's beginning to fit on that horse. A little bit more sanding and he's in there. I had to take the back off the saddle to get him on because of the cloak and everything. And here I'm using a little bit of EVA foam just to kind of like solidify that. I've got a roll of that up on my desk there, and it's great just to be able to pull that down and cut off a bit when I need it, because I use it for quite a lot of things when modelling. And there he is, all glued in place. So now for the next bits, choosing a head and also adding some baggage to his travelling mount. So there's a little bedroll and a little bag, pulled from one of the other kits. Should I have a skull on his saddle? But there's a lot of great kits out there at the moment. Sort of like this was for a sort of like a female wizard's kit. You can see the names of the manufacturers there. 50 foot of rope, classic D&D sort of accessory. And I added a few bits and pieces to him there. Added the head, obviously. And he's starting to look pretty good. I think he had a bit of a wen on his head there, which I had to cut free. I did some early drawings sort of the kind of characters that I wanted to, and they're all pretty rough and ready, some of them with big scars and, you know, disfigurations and things, and I kind of thought for the first one I'm going to go with this guy with the eye patch. That should be an easy start. I was wrong. So giving this guy an eye patch, how to go about that? Well, I thought there's probably an easier way to do this, but I thought if I can cut a sliver of plastic from maybe one of these sprues, let's see how that goes. And so I had a couple of attempts, and as you can see in this, you can get this satisfying little curl of plastic coming off. And these might be useful for all sorts of things, from belts and straps for sort of like extra bits of weaponry that you might want to add. I think I would probably, if I was to do this again, probably slice that down the middle, although with my eyesight and my fat fingers and thumbs it's pretty fiddly stuff, as you can see. I've added that to his head there, and you can see it kind of looks more like a bandage over that eye, so I'm going to need some sort of actual patch piece to fit it. I can put the strap around the head and then find an actual piece to go over the eye, and I looked across a load of spruce to see if there's anything even close, and then I found this, which is a little spare bit of plastic there. I don't know if that's to protect a point on that, but that's pretty good, and it's flat on the back, so it looks like it might glue to the face sort of quite well. It's pretty large, but I'm sure I can cut a little piece off that, and it'll also shape it more like an eye patch. And there it is. And I cut about the top third off that, and just added that on. And then it was a case of other things I might want to add, like a helm that he's not actually wearing, but he's just kind of carrying on his saddle, and to get those feet from the knees down back on there. And there you can see it. So he's really starting to come together now. I've yet to add the eye patch strap, but he's got a sword. He looks like he's holding on to his reins there. And then I added a shield in. He now looks like he's kind of charging into battle, banging his sword on his shield as well, which is great. And I've added that strap in. It's not touched quite as well as I'd like at the bottom on the right side of the figure there, but I'm pretty pleased with it regardless. So it's a case of adding just a couple of little bit more pieces here. I think this was from an old knoll sprue, but it just looks like another sort of thing that a travelling mercenary might attach to his saddle. And then it's a case of thinking about all the gaps that are there. And I might actually do something with the shield, like maybe take a thin piece of paper and create something so that when I paint it, it'll be in relief. I'm going to add a fur collar to his cloak, and I've got to fill in, like I say, a couple of gaps here and there. Not all of them will be that noticeable when he's stood on the table, but just the ones that are major. So here we go, a little bit of green stuff for that fur collar. I'm just using a pin to help me kind of like get the fur look, just teasing sort of like little lumps of it up. Using the fur cloak that he's already wearing as a guide. That didn't take as long as I thought it was, and I was already using some green stuff on another project, so I did this at the same time. Yeah, pretty pleased with that. You can see I've filled around his knee and around the back of that saddle bag and down the side there. And again, where that knee's touching the horse, try to turn it into a bit more material looking rather than the gap. And he's getting close to being ready to go. So at some point, I guess I'll give him a little spray with primer, and we'll see what it looks like. But before I show you that, I'll have a crack at finishing out the other figures. So I've got a full set. And then I can maybe talk a little bit more about the game itself as well. Cheers. Okay, right, well I'll see you when I've finished one of the longer videos, I guess.